networking event. As business professionals, we're just kind of supposed to know how to network, but it's not really something that we're taught, and it's not really something that we talk about. So today, we're going to do just that. We're going to do a deep dive into the art of networking, because really, it actually is an art form. So whether you're looking for investors, business partners, clients, this conference is really going to help you along your way. I can tell you that I've personally made a lot of great connections that have turned into paying clients from the LOHAS conference. So over the last 5 years, my business is I connect people with opportunities in the LOHAS space, business to business and also business to consumer. And really, a lot of people are very friendly at conferences, but turning those people into paying customers is where the art form is. So I want to help all of you, because people have started asking me at conferences for networking tips. And they're like, you're so engaged at conferences, you're always in meetings, how do you do that? So I'm going to share with you my secret sauce and some tricks and tools for savvy networking. As I started coaching business professionals on the art of networking, I kind of took for granted that this was something that people just know how to do. But it turns out that this isn't something that comes intuitively to everyone. Oh, we're going the wrong way. There we go. So let's start by getting prepared. If I asked each of you today exactly why you came to LOHAS, I'm curious how many of you would have an answer beyond, I'd like to learn some new things and I'd like to meet some great people. So I want to invite you, go ahead and take out a pen and a piece of paper, and I'm going to ask you some questions. So if we get really clear on our intention, it becomes a lot easier to manifest exactly what we're looking for. So is there anything specific that you are hoping to get out of this week here in gorgeous Boulder, Colorado? And who exactly are you hoping to meet? And really, what would be the best case scenario if you met those people? So go ahead and imagine there's no barriers. Maybe you need a new CEO, maybe you're looking for a partner for your company, an investor, and go ahead and write down your goals. It doesn't mean that you have to accomplish all of them, but it's fun to imagine that the conference is now ended and that you're reflecting back on your sweet spot scenarios, the best things that could have happened while you were here. So hopefully all of you have had a chance to see who's actually coming here to the LOHAS conference. We do have an attendee list, so make sure you get to check it out. And then go ahead and pick out your top 10 people that you hope to meet. And you can really get ahead of the game by reaching out to people with an enticing yet concise email. So I want to give you guys an example. When I first started networking, this is an example of a kind of a cryptic email. And it's something like this. Dear Mark Zuckerberg, I was excited to see we're both attending the LOHAS conference. I have some ideas that I think may be of interest to you. Would you be available to meet up? So this isn't a very good networking email. I do get a point because I was proactive. I reached out, so I'm ahead of the game in that way. But I don't say anything about who I am or why a busy person like Mark Zuckerberg would want to meet up with me. I also don't specifically ask for a time when he would be available. So I want to show you another email that's a little bit more developed. Hi Mark, my name is Carrie and I'm a networking coach that helps people and businesses get more ROI from conferences. While I'm an active Facebook user, my preference is honing the art of in-person relating. And I have some ideas I'd like to share with you about how to make virtual interactions be even more like real-time interactions. I was excited to see we're both attending LOHAS and would love to meet up. Would you be available for Saturday or Sunday afternoon for lunch? So I get a point for being proactive and reaching out, a point for saying exactly who I am and why Mark would want to meet up with me, and I also say the specific time after his availability. So the next thing you want to work on in your conference preparation is your pitch, and as Ted mentions, there's a few different types of pitches. So the elevator pitch that I use is something like this. Nice to meet you, I'm Carrie Stoller, and I teach people how to get more ROI from conferences as they network. The 1-minute pitch is more like, nice to meet you, I'm Carrie Stoller, I teach people how to get more ROI from conferences. And my approach is I break down networking into different stages, and I help people craft their personal networking pitch and also improve their overall happiness in life. So even though that was a little bit longer, some of you might have already begun to tune out what I was saying. And that's the importance of really gauging people's interest level and having different types of pitches prepared. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So let's take a minute to think about your credibility and the current state of your business and your life. So profession. What is your professional identity? And you can put it in present tense, like, I am a monkey trainer, or I'm a networking professional. And then expertise. What are you really good at, and what skills are you bringing to the table? What's your background professionally? Have you worked for Fortune 500s, NGOs? And then finally, what really differentiates you? What unique strengths and experiences are you bringing to the table? So the combination of these things, when artfully spoken, is going to position you as a memorable person in a sea of people in a conference environment. So once you have your pitch, you want to ask yourself these questions. Is my personal networking pitch memorable? Does it clearly identify and motivate my target customer? Is it easy to understand? Does it differentiate me and my brand from the competition? Does it build credibility and allow for future growth? And really, most importantly, are you going to use this pitch? Because if you're not, it's really not worth very much. So go ahead and get your pen and paper now, and we're going to look back at these questions and just take a few notes for your personal networking pitch. And I want to invite you later on in the conference, look around the room and see who's here in the session, and actually go up to them and say, hey, can I get your feedback on my pitch? And actually do that later on in the session. So you might not want to do it for someone who wasn't here in the session, but actually give each other feedback. Were you curious to learn more about something? Was something confusing? Feedback like that. So to review, here is your checklist for your preparation for any kind of networking event. Get clear on your intention and goals, get ahead by reaching out to your top 10 people, and then prepare your personal networking pitch. So now that you've all made it here to LOHAS, there's a lot to think about once you're on site. And so I'm going to take you through some best practices and also some things to avoid when you're networking. So let's take a minute to think about mindset. Everyone has a different personality and thus they have a different experience in conference environments. For people who are really extroverted like me, I feel like I really come alive in conference environments. They're really fun and energizing. But for people who are introverted, walking into a sea of people that you don't know anyone can evoke a lot of anxiety for people. And certainly that can be true for me at times too. So regardless of what your personality type is, I'm going to give you some simple principles that are going to help you. So I'd like to introduce you to my grandfather. This is Sidney Grossman. And although he passed away several years ago, he had one saying that has really stuck with me as I've moved into the art of networking, which is, if you don't ask, you don't get. It's as simple as that. So really be audacious and ask for what you want. The second thing I want to offer you is that pretty much everyone at the conference wants to meet other people. So let's strip away this business attire, as Ted was saying, for a moment, and actually imagine that we're in a singles bar, and that everyone here is single and wants to meet each other. So you want to assume inclusion, and that you're already part of what's happening here. Really be yourself, and claim your awesomeness and your confidence that what you're bringing to the table is valuable. So people love talking about themselves, and really the best way to get someone's attention is to give them your own. A great way to get someone's attention is just to tell them what you think they do is awesome. We spend so much time steeped in our own experience that sometimes we forget how cool our own work is. So offer that reflection to someone. And something else is that I find that networking can be really depleting on my energy. So when I'm really bringing curiosity to the table, it's very generative to my energy. Can you cultivate enjoyment? I want to offer that yes, you certainly can cultivate enjoyment. And I want to invite you all, and Ted decided to do a meditation. We're going to do a lot of meditating and yoga here this week. So go ahead and close your eyes. And take 3 deep breaths. And think of someone that you really deeply love. Really fully bring all of your attention to that love and enjoyment that you have with that person. And then let that enjoyment spread through your whole body and notice the sensation of enjoyment inside of you, what that feels like. So when you've got it, go ahead and open your eyes. And then hold that feeling with you throughout the conference. From this place, you can really make much more authentic connections. If you're feeling stressed out, it's not a great frame of mind to be doing that with you. And another great way to not do networking is to keep your nose buried in your phone the whole time. So please, you chose to come here and set aside your time to be here at LOHAS, to show up and be fully present. Your phone will be waiting for you later. The last thing I want to offer you about mindset is about a giving versus a receiving mentality. So a lot of people show up at conferences kind of like Ted was saying, like, who do I talk to next? What's the best connection? And there's sort of this mentality of getting. And so what I want to offer you is that I find when I'm in this mentality of what can I get from these people, it's really draining on my energy. And when I'm in a mentality of giving, what do I have to offer these people? It's very generative to my energy. So think about what do you have to give to this community this week that we're going to create together. It could be your resources, your network, a service in your company, something tangible, anything really. So be in a giving mentality. And speaking of energy, it's really hard to keep your energy up at conferences because we're all in go mode. And I have been to dozens of health and wellness events, and it's so ironic because there we are talking about health and wellness, and nobody's taking care of themselves. So I don't want to sound like your mother, but make sure you keep a water bottle with you, especially here in Boulder, Colorado. Get plenty of rest, and choose healthier beverages. Instead of coffee or soft drinks, choose like bhakti chai or yerba mate as a healthier way to stay energized. And luckily, we don't have this problem here at LOHAS, but try and get plenty of fresh air. And this week, we'll be doing plenty of walking around, so I'm very excited about that. Okay, so let's talk for a minute about how to actually meet people. Think about your most recent networking experience. And think about a good one, like a really positive interaction. What was it about that interaction that you enjoyed so much and made it so pleasant? And now think for a moment about one that you had where you were like, kind of maybe squirming, like, where's the off button? How do I get out of this conversation? And what was it about that interaction that was so distasteful to you? So we talked about preparing your different pitches, and when you first meet people, this is a really important time to give your pitch, but also to gauge people's interest accordingly. So if people seem really engaged and their energy is rising as you're talking to them, that's a good sign that you're making a connection with someone. If someone is feeling kind of antsy or checking their watch or they're trying to get a word in unsuccessfully, you may be turning into what I lovingly refer to as a throw-up monster. And essentially you're kind of throwing up unwanted information all over people. And so what I want to offer to you is really value the connection with that person more than valuing the content of what you're trying to share. Because if you build that authentic connection with someone, you have a lifetime to add more content to that original meeting. So we were talking about this being a singles bar, and I want to offer that when you meet people, there are some good ways to pick people up at a conference, and there are some less effective ways to pick people up at a conference. So these are some examples of some of my least favorite conversation starters. And I'm going to give you guys some better conversation starters that are more effective. So these are examples of better conversation starters that are going to engage more than just a hi, how are you, where are you from, what does your company do? And I just want to turn the attention to the audience now for a minute and ask if any of you have any great conference pickup lines or conversation starters that you want to share. All right, we'll keep thinking about that throughout the week. So stick with these right now if you don't have any. Oh, there's someone back there? Great.
What are you grateful for?
What are you grateful for? I love that. Thank you.
Why are you here?
That says, why are you here? What is your purpose? Great. Anyone else? Right here?
like to ask people, what are you excited about? What are you really excited about right now?
What are you really excited about? Thank you.
And that's the one, you can get some good conversation with them.
Last call for hot pickup lines at conferences. Over there. We'll take two more.
Rob Schwer with the Give Back Yoga Foundation. We always ask, how are you giving back to your community?
Lovely. Thank you. There was one more behind you. Last one.
I heard this on Colorado Public Radio this week. What was the first car you ever owned?
Good. Thank you. So I want to take a minute now and speak to the shy people in the room, because sometimes shy people don't ever get to those conference pickup lines that we were all just talking about. So, even for extroverted people like me, sometimes I feel shy, and the way I think of shyness is it's a combination of feeling really self-conscious and also being concerned that you might be doing something wrong. So what I want to invite you to do, whether you identify as a shy person or just sometimes feel shy, is be curious about your own shyness and what is actually happening for you when you're feeling shy. And then some tips for how to navigate from that shy space is first, bring your attention to other people, and rather than on yourself, focus on other people. Bring your curiosity to them and ask them lots of questions to get them talking rather than yourself. The second piece is to bring your awareness just to your own sensations in your body and your breath. So stay connected to your body rather than the thoughts in your mind. Another tip, which I recently learned from a shy friend of mine, is that going up to groups can be really anxiety-provoking for people. So pick one person to go up to, and then your next one person, so you don't feel like you're trying to entertain a whole group. So when it's time for meals here at LOHAS, for a lot of people, meal times are kind of like high school cafeterias. Like, who the heck do I go sit with? You don't know anybody. So what I want to offer you is, again, assume inclusion, and just go up to a table where there's already some people sitting down. Or if you did your pre-conference preparation, actually set up a lunch date ahead of time so you don't have to worry about it. And then here's some extra savvy networking tips that I like to do at lunch, which is that I offer to facilitate the table that I'm sitting with, to have everyone go around and do their 10-second networking pitch. And then I'll go first to kind of set the tone and show how to do it concisely. So you don't want people to go on and have to take up a whole lunch hour. Another thing I like to do is to offer to give the whole table everyone's email addresses. So I'll say, I'm going to send around a piece of paper. Why don't you guys all write your email addresses on here? We don't have to worry about exchanging cards. And that gives me a great excuse to follow up with people. And then thirdly, I always try and find an excuse to take a picture of the whole table. And that gives me an extra good excuse to follow up with people afterwards. And it makes you really memorable because people see who you are. Months down the line, we just turn into names and email chains and phone calls. We're not living locally in the same place. So find an excuse to take a picture and don't be shy about it. Okay, so another thing that can happen is you can get stuck in a conversation. And maybe someone else is being a throw-up monster and they're just going on and on. Or maybe they're just genuinely more interested in talking to you than you are in talking to them. So what I want to offer you guys are some graceful ways to exit the conversation. So the thing I really want to highlight here is that you don't have to lie to leave gracefully. You can be authentic and say, I really enjoyed meeting you. There's some other people I'd like to meet, or you need to go do whatever. But really be authentic and take a stand for your time, because at conferences, time is so valuable. So don't be stuck in a conversation, and don't be afraid to exit when it's time for you to go. So now that you're all expert networkers at events, it's time to think about the post-event follow-ups that are going to reinforce your new network. One thing I like to do is to use an app called CamCard to actually take pictures of all of my cards, so I don't have to manually enter in all of the information. And there's some other apps out there, so find one that works for you. And then stay connected to the people that you actually connect with. Don't think of this as a one-time meeting. Think of this as a lifelong relationship. And find excuses to let people know that you're thinking about them. Also, people have different ways of communicating, so don't take it personally if somebody doesn't get back to you right away. Try calling them, try emailing them, try inviting them to connect on LinkedIn. And just be patient and know that if the relationship is meant to happen, that it will continue to blossom over time. So these are some tools that I like to use to organize my information. Too often in offices, I see piles of business cards just sitting on people's desks after conferences. So actually put this information somewhere where it's going to be useful to you using some of these tools. So a quick recap. There are 3 stages of networking, at least as I see them. The first is pre-conference preparation. Second is game time. The third is follow-ups. And I think of pre-conference preparation as planting a garden bed. And then game time is watering the seeds. And the follow-ups are watching the seeds sprout. And not all of the seeds are going to sprout, of course, but if you practice some of the tips I've been talking about, a lot of them will. So in closing, I think that it's a lot more powerful to crowdsource this kind of information. And so I just want to ask any of you, are there any networking tips that I didn't cover that you think are really important for people to know about? And also bring you a microphone.